Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Money Talks with Ayanna Smith. And I am your host, Ayanna Smith, and I am a financial professional and I help people make and save money in a tax-free manner. Yes, in a tax-free manner. And yeah, we're just here to jump into some things this evening to talk about and continue talking about some of the things that we were sharing in the month of July. We're going to carry over to the big month of August. Okay. So looking at this, had talked about estate planning and some of the details and things that went into the intricacies of estate planning and making sure that you had a team, make sure that you have all the components and everything that's needed to make sure that things fall and go through successfully. So, with that being said, we're looking at today, whenever you're following and watching the replay, we're looking at estate planning and more because we want to talk about the importance of we talked about having the will, the advanced directive, and the power of attorney, and all those things of that nature. And so we wanted to make sure that we covered that, went over that, and still dug in and looked at basically some of the details of how that's supposed to look. And so we talked about having a team with our estate planning lawyer, with our financial professional, with our primary care doctor, whatever doctor that you go to the most for whatever you have going on. Make sure that you have that person who is your executor, your power of attorney, the person that is going to handle things on your behalf, speaking for you when you are unable to speak for yourself. And just make sure that those people are in place so that your team can run fluidly and succinctly and successfully. So we're going to we're going to check out and look at some things where it talks about making sure after you assemble that team. We wanted to look at what's the estate planning and the advanced directive, because oftentimes we don't fully understand the pieces and the components that go into what's needed to really fluidly get that estate plan going and growing. Okay, so when we look at the advanced directives, you may say, gosh, is this still talking about money? It absolutely is talking about money, because it's all in the way we plan. It's all in how things continue and go out. So we're going to look at estate planning, advanced directives. What are they and why are they important? So we have basically two types of components that go into the estate planning. Okay, we'll go into the advanced directives. I would say they also referred to as AD. So when in the medical world, they will ask you, do they have an AD on file? Do you have the advanced directive? And then how does that function? And hopefully we can get into the details pretty much that will hit and skim both of them with some success tonight. So we have two types. The most common types of advanced directives, ADs, are the one, living will, and two, the durable power of attorney for healthcare, sometimes known as the medical power of attorney. Okay, so when you're looking at that, this within that advanced directive, you have two types. You have a living will and you have a durable power of attorney for healthcare, sometimes known as the medical power of attorney. Of course, the power of attorney, the person who's the executor, who serves as the decision maker over your wishes once you cannot speak or you become incapacitated or pass away. That's what the estate planning, all of that does, and serves in that capacity. Then they're different when we want to say, looking at the different types of advanced directive formats. that will be specific to your state, because every state has different laws, and some are created by lawyers, some are created by the patients themselves. And so the state laws and courts really decide whether the documents are valid or not. So you have to make sure that you are in alignment with how you're putting the documents together. If you need a lawyer to do that, or if you can do it yourself, then you want to make sure that it is still going to be recognized by the courts in the event of your incapacitation, meaning you cannot speak and you're still living, or you pass away, and that means, of course, you can't speak at all. So you want to make sure you know that. So before you create that advanced directive, you want to make sure that you talk to your healthcare provider and your loved ones, and at least one person who can be that spokesperson, who can be that person that's going to carry out your wishes. We often talk about that because you need to have that team. It's so very important that you have the team, and the team will help you to carry out your wishes. So looking a little further, excuse me, before you, like I said, before you create that, you want to make sure that you have your healthcare provider, your loved ones, and at least one person who can be your proxy, or or an agent, a substitute. Well, I would say this, a substitute decision maker. That's who that person, that proxy is. And you want to make sure that you tell them all about your situation, your wishes, your fears, because they're the ones who will help you to put your wishes into effect while you're of sound mind. If you are then unable to do so, it's already taken care of. Hope that makes sense. And then look at this. You can usually get your advanced directive forms for your particular state through the State Bar Association. So that's one way to get your forms. I help people make and save their money and get life insurance and all those things in place. But we also have information and connections to be able to help you to get these types of things done as well, through some of the services that we provide. So we have to talk about that in a personal appointment so that I can hear your wishes to make sure that we're getting you on the right track and getting on the right road to getting these things in place. Because statistically, I was checking some statistics. I always like to do that. Our African American community is the lowest on the totem pole as far as having an advanced directive, because oftentimes some of us just kind of shy away from, or may have the mindset or thinking about, oh, if I talk about death, if I talk about things happening, that means I'm going to speak them on myself. No, it's not about speaking them on yourself. It's all about being proactive instead of reactive, and making sure that these things are talked about, although sometimes they are gut wrenching and things that we don't want to talk about and consider. Please know that I always say this mantra, money is always talking. Even if we aren't talking about it, of course it is. Absolutely true. But things do happen. People do get sick with critical, chronic, and terminal illnesses, and they do pass away. And we don't have to talk about it, but those things still happen. So this is a way to talk and speak for yourself when you write it on paper, because most of the time, well, basically all the time, whatever is not written down did not happen. So with something not being written down, it didn't happen. And great evening to you, Miss Cynthia. Whatever you did not write down did not happen. And in the courts cannot talk to someone when they cannot talk for themselves. You can't speak for yourself. You have nothing written down, nothing documented, nothing on paper, nothing notarized, nothing legally filed in the courts by your lawyer, or some legal papers, documents for what you're trying to do. Then it's as good as not being done at all. So like I said, money is always talking, even if we aren't talking about it. And also, what we do not prepare for is going to speak for us and say that we lacked planning, we lacked being, we lacked sharing our voice. Remember, our voice can be heard beyond the grave or beyond when we get too sick to speak, when we have written it down and have someone to carry out our wishes. So we must remember that and not be so morbid about it, but just be proactive about it, and basically take control of it. Take control of the situation and say, hey, for those people who like to be in control of everything, you can still be in control if you get your things written down and solidified and filed in the courts. Okay, so basically, thank you so much. Yeah, we want to make sure that this information is getting out. Okay, so let's dig a little deeper. Let's dig a little deeper here. All right, so we're going to talk about this evening we'll talk about the living will. We want to kind of break it up because we can't get into everything at one time. But this is what the living will does. Remember, we talked about there are basically two styles of that fits inside of the advanced directive. We have the durable power of attorney, and we have the living will. So we're going to talk about the living will, and then the next session, we'll talk about that durable power of attorney so that we will make sure that we are covering some things. And of course, if you have questions, put your questions, or you direct message me if you don't want everybody to see your questions. I understand that. If you have some questions about something, and I will try my best to give you the best answer. If it is a totally legal answer beyond what I am researching to share with you, we will most definitely have to connect you to an attorney, and we know some great attorneys that can help you along those lines, because we want to always be in order. And I am legally and professionally licensed to serve people and families with financial assistance in the avenues of life, health, and annuities, and then also in some of the debt consolidation and things like that, and tax consolidation. But we want to make sure when it comes down to the hardcoreness of how all of everything needs to play out and run and stream through with this estate planning, we do need to have those medical professionals and our legal professionals to make sure that these things are communicated and put in place properly. So let's look at the living will. So we're going to look at the living will. So pretty much here's how the living will functions. The living will is a legal document, and it's used to state certain future health care decisions only when a person becomes unable to make the decisions on his or her own. And so basically the medical professional team, has to deem that so. So the living will basically is used only at the end of the life if a person is terminally ill. Let me get that correct. Terminally ill, meaning they cannot be cured. They are on their way out. They have pretty much made their peace, and they are on their last stages. This is when the living will can be used. It cannot be used any other time. If the person is on the road to recovery, they have some illnesses that is showing medically that they are going to recover. You can't use the living will at this time, but the living will is the terminally ill. The person is at the end of life and they can't be cured, or they are permanently unconscious. So that will fall in some situations like the person being in a coma and nobody knows when they are going to, wake up, or I guess you would say when you put people on the respirator and they're just basically being artificially kept alive until the family decides to terminate that portion of their life. So then basically looking at this, it says the living will describes the type of medical treatment the person would want or not want to receive in these type of terminally end of life situations. So basically it says, it pulls in that big thing. I remember a story that true story, when my grandmother was passing away or in the end stages. She immediately said, she did not, while she was of sound mind, said that she did not want to be resuscitated. So she didn't want to be brought back. So if she stopped breathing, she wanted to just go on out. peacefully and not prolong her life in that capacity. So that's when somebody's coming down to their last stages. That's when a living will would kick in. And then, they don't want their life started to stop. So it could share that. This also applies to treatments, including but not limited to if they want to reject getting dialysis, tube feedings, and actual life support, such as the breathing machines. If they do not want that and they're at their end stages, that is put in the living will and can be activated only when the person can't be cured or permanently unconscious or they're at the end stages. Okay. So make sure that you have to know the difference. And then as we come onto our descent for the evening, coming on down, I always like to take off and then we like to descend. Okay. We ascend and we descend for the show, for the broadcast. Now listen to this. Before your healthcare team uses your living will to guide your medical decisions, 2 physicians must confirm. And this information I've gleaned from the cancer.org site. So this is something that can be validated that I'm speaking behind that. So Ayanna's not just making it up, but I want you to start looking and researching things so that you will know, because this is a conversation that needs to and must happen so that we can be prepared and ready to roll and do what we need to do. So here we are. Before your healthcare team, like I said, before they would go into using that living will and to guide those medical decisions, you need 2 physicians to confirm that you are unable to make your own medical decisions and you are in a medical condition that is specified by your state law. Everything still is legal as a terminal illness or permanent unconsciousness. So these are the things these are the guidelines. And of course, like I said, get with a lawyer, an attorney, so that we can get those things really solidified so you can get your wishes carried out in the event that you get incapacitated, cannot speak for yourself, or on that end of life, and you'll be able to speak for yourself through the papers that you've written out prior to things happening. And so here are some things as we wrap up that you need to think about. It says some things to think about when writing a living will should include: if you want to use equipment such as dialysis machines, kidney machines, ventilators, breathing machines to help keep you alive. Do not resuscitate orders. I talked about the DNRs. Do not resuscitate or use CPR. People have that option. If they don't want that, they can write that. You don't want any fluids or any liquids or any feeding tubes if you can't eat or drink. People can deny that or say that they want that, either or. You don't want treatment or do want treatment for pain, nausea, or other symptoms, even if you can't make the decisions on your own. So this may be called what sometimes people hear comfort care or palliative care. So if you don't want those things, you say, I don't want any medication, or I do want medication for pain, nausea, other symptoms, then that should be included in your living will. And also including your living will if you want to donate your organs or not, or if you want to donate your body tissues to science after your death. So that's up to you. And bottom line, it's important to know when choosing not to have aggressive medical treatment is different from refusing medical care at all. So you still can get treatments such as antibiotics, food, pain medicines, or other treatments, but it's just the goal of treatment. I'll say it like this. It is just that the goal of treatment becomes comfort rather than cure. Because when people are at their end stages, it says we want to make them comfortable. That's what we talk about, the comfort care or the palliative care. We want to make them comfortable as they are transitioning. Or it says you may end or take back a living will at any time. So know that you can change it because it's a living will. And it's a document that you have the control of and how to write and make it make sense for you and how it's going to work. Basically, you have to go into the mind's eye of, how do I want it to look if I see myself, if I could have like an outer body and see myself lying on the bed, non-responsive, can't speak anymore, really just kind of at the end stages, how do I want my life to look and play out, and how do I want everybody to carry those things out? If you already know that people are going to be volatile in their emotions, it is best to go ahead on the front end and get these things in order so that it will be less grief and stress, and people won't have to figure out what folks want to do when they cannot tell you what they want. And so as we wrap up, remember the living wills vary, the laws vary from state to state, and you have to know the specific laws. So that's why each state, I'm not giving anything specific to any states, because you have to check that out for yourself. But if you spend most of your time in one state or the other, your home state, wherever that is, you make sure that you speak to your healthcare provider and review each of those laws, because they can talk you through that. Because there are advanced directives at most of the time at your hospitals. You don't think about them. If you've ever gone in for any surgeries or anything, they will have you to fill out some paperwork so they'll know what you want to do. But it's better to have those things already outlined and just let it speak for you. And also check your state to know if you have to renew your living will after a certain period of time, and then how often you need to do it. So we know that the advanced directive includes, as we wrap up, the advanced directive includes the living will and the durable power of attorney. And so we're going to talk about the durable power of attorney at the next stage, at the next broadcast. But know that the estate planning, it includes advanced directives, and why, what are they? We talked about partially what one component is, and why are they so important was the second thing that we shared, because we need to know these things, and we need to know that we have all things in order, and that our voice is heard when it cannot be audibly heard anymore. So this is, let's see. All right, let's see. I had a question. Awesome question. Is it better to have a living will for someone who can't make decisions for themselves, or should I start work POA the first time? Okay, got it. Okay, probably both. Because if you're going, according to what I was sharing with you, we can talk about this. Let's talk about this offline. Let's talk about this offline, because it's great information and it absolutely great question. But according to what we shared on this broadcast, yes, it would be great to you're basically kind of served holistically, but I would say in the emotions of it, you may want to have someone who has just as much shared love and experience that you have for your son or your loved one, whomever that may be, in this case, so that they can hold your hand and guide you through that point. Because when emotions are high, rationale, no matter how good and smart we are, is really out of the window, if we want to be frank about it. So we'll connect, because I would love to connect with you on that. Absolutely. And thank you so much. All right, Miss Charvette, my coach. Yes, great information. Thank you so much for being on. So we are coming to our descent. As always, I promise. Promise. I have such an awesome time because money talks is not just money is talking all the time. I always say that money is always talking. You can say it with me, even if we aren't talking about it, for the mere fact of there's not a thing that we can effectively do without it. And even in these preparations for our final wishes, it does take money to even get those things together. So it's very important, and we cannot not plan and prepare on how to get ourselves to the next level. So with that being said, of course, I would love to connect with everyone. And of course, you can connect with me at www.askayanna, but you can subscribe to my YouTube page, because we probably have some live stream listeners viewing from the YouTube channel this evening, and also make sure that you connect with me on Instagram and Facebook. But if you just go to my website at www.askayanna.com, then you will be able to connect with me on all social media platforms, and make sure that you direct message me so that we can speak further, because we had some great dialogue and great questions going on, and it's something I believe that we can all agree is imperative for us to learn, grow, and actually be able to do better about. All right, this is Ayanna Smith with Money Talks from Ayanna Smith. I am a financial professional, and I help people make and save money in a tax-free manner. And you all have a wonderful, wonderful, well-wished evening, morning, and have a good night.